Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And with the raid just coming out, we have our first round of a tuning pass for Shadowlands and classes overall. So I just wanted to run you through what has changed and what you should expect for your class in the game as a whole, PvE and PvP both taken into consideration. And also, I'm going to be doing a little bit of something that's new. I'm going to be making a prediction of some changes in the future potentially, and where I think changes are likely to be targeted, and maybe how you may want to plan around it if you're somebody who's looking to play the strongest and most competitive option in the game. And we'll be getting into that after we review the current round of changes. So right off the bat, tank specializations, your threat generation is going to be a lot higher. I had actually personally noticed this running through a bunch of Mythic Dungeons myself, that generating threat was a lot more challenging. And I think if a player was a little bit even moderately less aware than I was of threat generation, would have had a very hard time tanking. So this is just a quality of life thing for tanks in general. You're going to notice you're going to be able to pop out more damage a little bit faster with this threat generation increase. For Unholy, your mastery is being directly targeted, and your mastery here of the Dreadblade increases the damage of your minions, and basically your damage over time affects a lot of your abilities with shadow damage. I was talking to some players in PvP who didn't feel like this was going to be a big deal in PvP, but I found that to be a bit strange because most of your damage is your dots and your pets. And similarly in PvE, almost all of your damage is dots and your pets. So a reduction of your mastery effect, I would think, is a slight nerf. Probably not enough to completely, okay, throw out Unholy and time to go Frost in PvE or PvP. And then also in PvP, this probably reduces the likelihood that Unholy receives any targeted specific PvP nerfs, as this is likely going to be enough. And I'll be playing through these changes as well live on twitch.tv/Supatease. So I'll be encountering all of these classes, and I've been personally playing Paladin, Druid, and Priest a lot. So if you want those point of views, those will all be available there. For Blood, you're getting a pretty hardy buff. Blood Boil damage increased by 10%, Heart Strike damage increased by 15%, Marrow Rend damage increased by 10%, Death Strike damage increased by 5%, as Unholy Death Knight was likely lagging behind the pack here, especially in Mythic Plus. Mythic Plus this week, it was really popular for Prop Paladins and Vengeance Demon Hunters, and I mean, they're just doing insane damage right now. I've been playing Prop Paladin, it's super fun and it just crushes things, and I've been seeing videos of Prop Paladins soloing Mythic Dungeons. So yeah, the other tanks like Warrior isn't receiving anything, but Warrior was pretty underrepresented too, so it was a bit strange. Maybe they've got Battle for Azeroth syndrome, where it's like, yeah, Prot Warrior was on top for a really long time, so we're just gonna let it be on the bottom. I don't know, but if you're Blood Death Knight, you're pretty happy about this. For Demon Hunters, you're getting all of your damage abilities increased by 5%. This is to try and help you out in the entire game. Havoc was kind of falling behind. Now, of course, you may be in PvP thinking, what? They buffed Demon Hunter by 5%. When I get into my prediction changes for PvP specifically, I think that maybe this 5% buff will actually end up being good for the game as a whole. Assassination is also receiving a 5% damage increase. The problem with Assassination is it's competing with Outlaw, which is insane in AoE and PvE, and it's competing with Subtlety, which is insane in single target on PvE, and it's competing with specs that are literally like the top of those given realms, and 5% I think is more or less to try and sort of bring you up to speed in PvE. In PvP, again, I don't even think this is really necessary. Assassination was not doing bad at all. So I'm a bit surprised, but in PvE, just bring you up a little bit. Now for Shaman Restoration specifically, all of your healing abilities are going to be reduced by 4%, and your healing rain is reduced by an additional 10%. And Resto Shaman is number 2 healer in popularity right now for Mythic Plus. It has such an insane kit when it comes to raid. Spirit Link Totem is basically mandatory in a raid. Its healing output with Healing Rain and Chain Heal is just so exorbitant and so massive that it's going to get targeted nerfs whenever the raid comes out, in my mind, almost always. Banana Beam is too good. And this change also makes sense in PvP somewhat. The Healing Rain is negligible, but reducing all abilities by 4% is a slight nerf to Resto Shaman, which in my mind is very good in PvP, maybe the best healer at the moment. Now, this one is a little bit weird. Destruction Warlock, Chaos Bolt damage has been increased by 22%. Destruction Warlock doing really good in AoE at the moment with Rain of Fire builds, but this is likely targeting their 2-target cleave or single target damage with his Chaos Bolt buff in PvE. Now in PvP, increasing an ability that's as notorious as Chaos Bolt by 22% when damage is already spiky out the wazoo at the moment is a bit startling. Just to say the least. So if you're a Destruction Warlock and you reroll to Affliction and you're not having a good time with that one in PvP, maybe it's time to flop over. But if you're a Destruction Warlock in PvE, you're going to be pretty happy about this. Arms Warriors and Warriors in general, very happy about this change in PvE. Your Mortal Strike damage is being increased by 20%. However, they have counteracted that in PvP, so it's not further buffed in PvP because this Warrior does not need a buff in PvP. So this made sense. I'm glad that they included this damage has been equivalently reduced in PvP. Slam is also getting a buff with their rank 3, now increasing Slam's damage by an additional 25%, up to 50% more damage. Now, this is where you start going, wait, they buffed Slam for Warrior in PvP. Now in PvE, this makes a lot of sense. Warrior, both Fury, which is also getting a 5% damage buff, is going to help you out in the entire game. Probably not going to make you still more competitive than Arms in PvP. But in PvE, it's just a nice little buff, 5%. Nothing too big there. Fury's been getting a lot of those little kind of just like injections of 5%. Maybe it'll get there one day. But speaking again more specifically to Arms, this is now getting into my prediction here. There is a lot of spiky high damage conditions, which I thought had been spoken about in this post, but I actually couldn't find it. Now I'm wondering if I started to see things when I was looking at it. But there's a lot of really big hitting abilities in the game right now, Mortal Strike being one of them. So I think them not doing a PvP equivalent change of Slam is likely because Slam is negligible in PvP anyway. And it may also be that they're going to target Arms Warrior and nerf them somewhere else specifically. And this is to try and help out with their damage outside of those big spike windows. So when you look at this, you're like, wait, why did they buff Warrior Slam damage and not nerf it in PvP? I think it might be concerning for the future. And remember that this list that I'm about to give is a guess. It's a complete guess. Mostly based off the patterns that I've seen throughout the past expansions on how they address damage in PvP. So when we look at this, when I open it, remember, it's just a guess. It's a prediction. Whether or not I'm going to be right, how accurate it's going to be, again, is random because it's a guess. So looking at these changes specifically that I think will happen to the game, I think no matter what, these abilities, I also should have included an ability when I was... when I was reading Assassination, I was thinking like, oh wait, I forgot an ability. Now, specifically Covenant abilities, I think the Hunt for Demon Hunters is super fun, awesome looking ability, really fun charge to the target, but it's killing people in one. It's hitting above. Basically, the rule of thumb for me when I wrote this was anything that does more than 10,000 damage in PvP is probably getting nerfed because that's on average about half of a player's health in one attack. So I kind of just oversimplified it and said everything by 10% as a guess. It's probably a ballpark estimate, but I think that these abilities are probably likely targeted. The Hunt for Demon Hunter, Mind Games for Priest, Echoing Reprimand for Rogue, Aim Shot probably again for Hunter, Eviscerate for Rogue, specifically Subtlety, Ferocious Bite, and this is targeting also Convoke the Spirits, right? If you nerf Ferocious Bite, you're nerfing Ferocious Bite on Convoke the Spirits, which is the main thing that's hitting hard on Convoke the Spirits. Star Surge, there's too many modifiers. Most of these are a problem of too many damage modifiers that you can stack together that increase the damage of a specific spell, which is then again kind of sad that I'm worried they'll nerf this base spell and not the damage modifications, and then your damage outside of those stacking is nothing and you're going to feel useless. That would be a problem of going this route, but at the same time, should these abilities be left untouched? That's the debate, right? But I expect Star Surge likely gets nerfed. Again, anything that hits close to 10k. Judgment for Retribution Paladin, maybe even potentially Holy as well. Templars Verdict, another case of damage modifiers stacked together, increasing its damage through talents an exceedingly large amount. Rising Sun Kick for Windwalker. And then Arms Warrior, I just said overall damage. Because while they do have a lot of modifiers to their Mortal Strike specifically, and I could have put Mortal Strike reduced in PvP as there's legendaries that are accessing you more Mortal Strike hits. I think I spelled Envenom wrong, but that's not a big deal. And then Envenom for Assassination Rogue, which I've seen critting upwards of 20,000 damage. It would be my best guess and rough estimation that they'll look at the abilities that are hitting for more than half a player's health and nerf them by some amount. And I just said 10% because that seemed like a low. It's low enough, but also high enough that it's likely to matter slightly, changing the pacing of the game as a whole. But my biggest concern with them nerfing the abilities that hit hard isn't that I think that it isn't toxic, that the 100 aim shots you once and you die, is that once they nerf these abilities, the classes aren't going to do damage again. And this is a situation we were in Battle for Azeroth as well. When Azerite traits were enhancing the spells of classes a lot, damage was really spiking and high. And I mean, I'm thinking back to Innervate trait for Boomkin, buffing up their Star Surge damage and then doing a ton of burst there. Warriors also had, I can't remember what it was specifically on Azerite traits, but their damage was pretty exceedingly high from Azerite traits. And a lot of players in the game, at least at the high level, are, this is fun, the game is faster, I'm enjoying this. But then at the lower end, when you're just introduced to PvP and you get one tap by this stuff, it's a very knee-jerk, like, holy, I'm getting out of here, like, I'm not doing this. So I don't know how we can walk the middle ground. I don't know how you can make it where a new player isn't going to have a knee-jerk reaction while a mid-level, top-level player is going to have this intense experience, right? And I'm a little bit biased because I enjoy that intense gameplay with like, oh, anything could happen at any moment. I've always got to keep my eyes peeled, and as opposed to where in Battle for Azeroth for me was, yeah, we need to wait 10 minutes because the healer's not going to run out of mana, and we need healing reduced by 50%. No amount of strategy I implement is going to end this game before that point. So yeah, we're kind of just running around for 10 minutes. I absolutely did not have any fun with that. I don't want the game to go back to that point at all. When I'm bringing up this prediction, I'm bringing up this argument to try and make this valid. But at the same time, I can also see, like, should the hunt kill 80% of your health when it crits from a demon hunter? Should mind games? This is the problem at the moment that the game is facing, is that it is quite literally one ability on most these specs that is doing an exceedingly large amount of damage. You can just look at their recount or their details damage breakdown and see that it's these spells that are maybe even 30-50% of their overall damage. So how can they bring down the damage of these abilities and then maybe bring up the damage of all the classes through the PvP trinket bonus that was introduced, so versatility is more effective? That, I think, might be a valid solution, and they could use that as a tuning knob that isn't confusing. It's very visual, like these trinket bonus will, and it also furthers the need to use the PvP trinkets over the PvE ones. That I could see as a potential solution. But is it best for the game or worse for the game to leave everything the way it is? Maybe for some time, maybe for a couple of weeks, see it play out. But it would be my guess, again, my prediction, that these are the abilities that get targeted by the exact value. I don't know. 10% just felt like a rough estimate number with this much playing that I've got in, whereas like it probably will affect it enough that you're not going to get, woo, off the face of the earth, but at the same time still have the ability to feel meaningful. So regardless, I hope that you enjoyed this tuning update and my PvP patch prediction. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, leave it with a thumbs up. Comment down below with your thoughts on what's going on in PvP. What do you think? High damage, low damage, middle ground? What should they do to try and make this the best for everybody's experience overall in the game? Because that's all we want, right? We want to have a really good game. We want to have a ton of people coming in and playing and having a lot of fun, right? Other than that, if you enjoy this type of content, please subscribe to the channel, as it is absolutely free, and it just lets you know when my videos go live, as I'm uploading every single day and trying to keep you up to date, in the know and in the now when it comes to Shadowlands, so you know what you're picking and what you're getting yourself into in all aspects of the game. Other than that, check out some of my other videos. I'll have them linked here as well, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.